All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Campus Manager podcast series. I'm so delighted for this one in particular. We have Tori Gueri here with us today. Tori, welcome in. So nice to see you. Can you tell the audience out there about yourself? What school did you go to and what did you study?
Thank you so much, Santi. I'm so happy to be here. So I'm Tori. I went to SUNY Geneseo, which probably have not heard of. It's a teeny tiny school in upstate New York where I graduated with less than 800 other people and less than 4,000 students in general. So very small. I was,
Yeah, small campus.
but I was a business administration major and I was a minor in marketing. And I just graduated in May of 2025. And now I'm a business development manager here full time.
You're working full time at Fresh Prince today. Why did you become a BDM? What went through your mind in that decision making process when you were, approached with that opportunity after graduation?
Yeah, I became a BDM because honestly, my BDM changed my life. And I wanted to do the same thing for other campus managers. My junior year, when I felt like school was getting really hard, playing softball was getting really, really hard on campus, felt like I really needed something that I knew that I could always get what I give and I would always have somebody having my back. And that was always my BDM for me. And that really, really changed my perspective on college as a whole. So I wanted to do the same thing for other students and show them that, if they will get what they give in this role. So the harder they work, they can get a lot of rewards out of it.
I love that you actually what inspired you to become a BDM is your BDM themselves. Who was your BDM? Since we're here, let's give them a shout out.
My BDM was Anna. Mostly had Anna and loved working with her. She was awesome. She was a college athlete just like me. So we got along really, really well. And she was super competitive the same way I am.
Yeah, that was a big connection point for you guys, I am sure. But going back to SUNY Geneseo, how big is the campus? We're here today to talk to you actually because you actually did something pretty remarkable that it's not very common out there for campus managers in smaller campuses. You had over $100,000 in sales in just your few semesters as a campus manager. What kind of, when you look back at that experience, did you ever imagine you would get to that point given the size of your campus?
My first semester, I did $10,000 in sales and I was jumping for joy. And I was so impressed and so blown away. I would have never seen myself doing $100,000 in one semester a year later. But again, my BDM really just kept pushing me to look for opportunities outside my campus and outside of my normal comfort zone. And that's really what was able to push me to that point.
Right. So when you started, you realized, this is a small campus. Did you ever feel like you were at a disadvantage for that when you were comparing yourself to other campus managers nationwide at the bigger schools that were hitting all of these numbers? Or did you find that to be a motivation for you to think outside the box and think, where else can you really offer your service?
Yeah, I definitely when I started, I put myself in that comparison of, how am I gonna measure up to these CMs that go to these gigantic schools that have a ton of Greek life? And then the more that I was able to be honest and open and express that with my BDM, the more she was able to debunk that thought that I had. And then it became a motivator because I would look on the leaderboard and I would see that sitting between my numbers were sitting between a CM who went to Duke and a CM who went to Alabama, and it was really, really cool to see this school, SUNY Geneseo, that nobody's ever heard of before, sitting right in the middle of that at the top of the leaderboard.
Love that. I love that. And in on campus, how many clients did you have on campus versus off campus?
On campus, by the time by the time I finished being a CM, I worked with every single Greek life or on campus and a couple clubs. So I would say it was probably about 20. And then off campus, it was like over 100. My phone was
No way.
always blowing up.
What kind of clients? Like, what was your niche? Like, how were you able to establish a relationship with so many different clients outside of campus?
Literally just love yapping, and that's what it was for me. When Anna would have accounts at other campuses that needed a manager, she would assign them to me, and I would be able to reach out, and then from there, I would always hop on a call with somebody, build a connection with them, and when I was about to get off that call, I'd be like, "It was so great to meet you. Would love to meet other people on your campus. can you put me in contact with 3 to 5 decision makers that you know on campus? And just built off that. But that's why we always say, like, all 100 Ks are not made equal, because my $100,000, I think, came from 85 orders in one semester, and other CMs that go to bigger schools, it comes from, like, 10.
Right, yeah, because of the size of the client and the size of the orders. That's obviously a huge variable. So was it mostly like other student-run organizations at other campuses, or did you also work with small businesses, corporations?
Yeah, it was a little bit of everything. Other student orgs at other campuses, and then also I had a lot of connections from home that I would reach out to. So, like, I had gone to a summer camp growing up and I reached out to them. I had a lot of connections within like SUNY Geneseo and the small businesses around there that I was able to reach out to. And then also just a ton of people that I knew growing up, like from playing softball with old softball coaches, that I was able to reach out to them as well and make some sales there.
And I want to go back because you mentioned something earlier, and I want to go back to your conversation with Anna. You just mentioned that you were sitting down with her and that you opened up saying, like, well, Anna, my campus is too small. This is a limiting factor for me. And that's really you opening up and showing vulnerability, right? Like you opening up and saying, like, I think, this is going to be my ceiling on this. Do you think that conversation really sparked your journey as a campus manager from that point onwards, and what she told you as that what you could do to still find clients and still find success outside of your own campus?
Yeah, that was actually, I still talk about this to my CMs to this day, that that was my pivotal turning point where I'm not sure still to this day, even though I've been managing CMs for a year and a half, I don't know how Anna recognized in that moment, with only knowing me for a couple weeks, that I was the type of campus manager that really needed some tough love. But I'll never forget, she said to me, she was like, "Well, do you want to be mediocre or do you want to have a success story?" And just that tough love was like, "Okay, this is a challenge. Let's get it. Like, let's go do it." And I needed that. Whereas I think if she just patted me on the back and was like, "Well, no, like there's other opportunities," probably wouldn't have pushed me as hard as it did to hear like mediocrity was an option, because it's not in my cards at all.
Yeah. How did that make you feel though? Like if you remember that moment, what was your initial thoughts when she told you that?
I was amped. I was like, "I am gonna go out there and I'm gonna go get so many leads and I'm gonna prove to her that I'm not mediocre." And then that was literally where everything went from 0 to 100 within the next month.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And what changed in your behavior? What patterns did you notice that you were changing? Was it, your pitching? Was it your follow-up, consistency, your relationship in the way that you approach your clients?
Yeah, it was honestly, it was a little bit of everything. I first really learned to get better at managing my time and blocking out times. That way I knew, like, okay, every day I'm gonna have at least an hour to reach out and to follow up with clients. And then it was also a combination of, now I'm gonna reach out to more people, like double the amount of people that I was reaching out to before. I'm gonna follow up more, and also I'm just gonna pitch myself anywhere I see an opportunity. So whether that's literally like going out to dinner and seeing a restaurant with merch, or talking to, again, old softball coaches, friends of my parents, friends of my siblings, where I sold to my brother's auto body shop. Like, literally just looking for any opportunity I can find. I was like, "I'm going to find this." And it worked out just by reaching out to so many people and, again, using the connections I have, because I noticed that a lot of these people outside of college campuses, they always wanna do merch, but they just don't really know where to go, and they don't wanna go through the whole process. So by me taking it off their hands, I was actually doing them a solid, and I was able to frame it that way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just easier and more comfortable, right? Because of the proximity that you have to people on campus. You just like settle for folks who you see, here and there every week or so on campus, and you know them from class and from your extracurricular activities. Like branching out outside of that is quite intimidating, right? Especially as a college student. Did you ever find that people were likely to want to work with you because you were a college student and because you were this self-starter, this person who was like really going out of her comfort zone and trying something new? Did you ever find empathy in that from your clients as well outside of school?
I think outside of school, a lot of the clients that I had reached out to had known me from softball, and that was, like, where I where I grew up, it was softball was a huge thing and everybody knows each other and everybody knows the way you play. Everybody knows your work ethic. So a lot of people who had known me from softball always knew me as working my butt off 24/7 and getting on base and being the annoying leadoff hitter. So a lot of people were like, okay, if she's gonna I think a lot of people compared to that to like, she's gonna be that good of an athlete and work that hard, she's probably gonna treat my merchandise the same way. And I feel like a lot of people did trust me from that word of mouth recommendation.
Yeah, you had a reputation and you lived up to that reputation. Um, in this other scenario of you being a campus manager for them. But just going back to, I want to talk about your BDM transition as well. So you mentioned earlier that, you took this job because you were so inspired by Anna, your BDM, who inspired you to become a great campus manager. What skills, did you immediately realize as a BDM that you had developed as a campus, thanks to being a campus manager, that you would, undoubtedly use and need to lead other campus managers?
Honestly, like everything. I feel like the biggest things that come up are I this being a campus manager really did teach me to be irrationally persistent and to never take no for an answer. I literally, with all my campus managers, there's this scene from a movie called Tommy Boy. Love the movie to death. And he talks about like you never take no for an answer. And I sent it to all my CMs because I think that's really, really big. A lot of people are going to say no to you because they're comfortable in what they're doing right now. It's not because they don't want to work with you. And that's what I had to teach my CMs to debunk is find out like why are they actually saying no? Like what's the reason behind this no? Because chances are it could be a yes. So that was a big thing. And then I think also one of the biggest things that I learned from being a campus manager that I've taken in the BDM role, but in my everyday life is my time management. Like blocking out time, sticking to my time blocks has been huge and it's made me so productive. And even in school, it made me so much more productive than I would have been if I didn't learn how to do that. So there's honestly a million things. Like I can go on about it forever.
You can go on forever. Yeah. But I love how we got a little treat there with behind the scenes of how you motivate your CMs today by showing them a quote from a movie. What in what format is this coming to them? Is it like a GIF? Is it a meme? When do you decide to send this to them? Give us a little bit of behind the scenes here on that.
Usually I'll show it, like I'll share my screen. It's a YouTube video and I'll show it in my intro call with campus managers. And I'm like, never take no for an answer. Like this is always what you need to think of. And
The intro call, like the very first time you meet
yeah,
them.
yeah.
Yeah, you don't wait around for that. It's so critical that they need to see it the first time around with you.
Exactly. Yeah. They need to know like I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna giggle and this is gonna be fun, but at the same time, we're gonna get things done.
Love it. And what are some of the reactions that you get from your CMs when you show them that?
I have some CMs who think it's really funny and they know the movie and they're like, this is awesome. And then I think I have other CMs who are like, this girl is crazy.
It's a 50-50,
Yeah.
huh?
Yeah.
But speaking of your CMs, like you were a great CM yourself, so you have an idea of what a, you know, high performing CM looks like from the beginning. What separates your, if you had to pick, you know, the top two things that separate your high performing CMs from the more average performing CMs from the beginning, what do you look for right away?
My highest performing CMs, I can normally tell pretty quickly that they're going to be high performing because they have an ambition and drive that I don't see from most people. When I can tell that people are always hungry, I see that, hey, if I asked you to reach out to 10 new leads this week and you reached out to 15, I know that those CMs are going to be high performing CMs because they go above and beyond week after week. The second biggest thing, I would say something that I personally don't think I did well as a CM, and that's why I'm glad that I'm noticing it now and I'm learning. But the second biggest thing is people who ask me good questions. When I have campus managers who are reaching out to me multiple times a week, wanting more information, wanting more knowledge, asking me questions so they can better themselves, I always know that those CMs are going to end up being good campus managers because they're getting all the information, they're using the resource that they have, me, to better themselves. Usually it will be something along the lines of helping, like for example, they'll take the initiative to run a call and they're like, "Hey, can you send me a 5-minute audio message of what I should do, how I should run this call?" Or, "Hey, Tori, I'm running into this problem right now." I think this is the best thing that I see is, "Tori, I'm running into this problem right now with pricing. I'm working with X client. I've tried ABC to solve this problem. I can't seem to figure it out. I'm thinking of now trying XYZ to solve the problem. What do you think I should do? And when I see that they've taken the initiative to try to problem solve and they've looked back at the training and then they're asking me a good informed question, I'm like, okay, you're getting it. You're learning, you're understanding the things that you need to know to now be a successful campus manager.
Yeah, it sounds like people who are seeking guidance, but not necessarily asking you to do the job for them. They just want to learn from somebody who was so successful in the role, and being really resourceful early on, and understanding that having somebody like you, that they can reach out to and that you will respond to is a luxury, right, for them, and that they should utilize it to the fullest potential. What about the average performing CMs that you see early on? You're like, well, I don't know if this is going to work out. What type of excuses do you hear the most early on from the CMs who, won't be as high performing as others?
Yeah, I would say the biggest one is, the excuse of being like they're too busy. And then sitting down with them and actually looking at their calendar and they have hours of open time. I'm too busy excuse is one that I get all the time, or them forgetting, or people just putting things off. But normally I can tell right off the bat from that, like, it's either a, "I'm too busy for this," or, "Hey, my schedule is really, really packed, and I feel like I'm having a hard time handling this. Can you please help me or show me any strategies that you had when you were in college to manage your time?"
And why do you think that is, that us as humans, like, we tend to find that as an excuse, right? Because, like, that's at the surface, right? But, like, underneath of that, there has to be something deeper about whether you like what you're doing or not, where you're intimidated by it. But we always resort to, like, I don't have any time. Do you think that's the reason why? Do you think there's something deeper around that? What thinking have you done around this subject? Because it does come up often where with commission based work, when it's like, okay, well, I do what I can and then I'll just take that. But that's not really the point of the role, right? The role is like, hey, you have an opportunity to build your own business and walk out of school saying that you sold $100,000 plus worth of merch. That's a hell of an opportunity. Somebody who hands you the keys to be able to do that. What do you think people struggle so much to understand that that's a really unique opportunity, and ultimately, they don't put the time and effort to really go through with it?
This is something I've done a lot of thinking on, and I truly believe it's because the campus manager role is one of the first things that college students will work on that is gonna be more than a semester-long project. So, in our whole lives, like, whether we're in high school, the longest thing we work on is gonna be a project with our classmates, or if we're in college, the longest we're working on something and committing on something is, again, it's a semester. Maybe it's a capstone, it's a year-long thing. Whereas the campus manager role, if you really want to succeed, you have to look a year or more into the future, because building a business does not happen overnight. And you have to be disciplined. There's this big gap between motivation and discipline, where motivation is this thing that comes and goes, and it goes up and down depending on, the wins that you've had that week and the losses that you've had that week. And then your discipline is that even if you lose time and time again, if you fall down 7 times, you have to get up 8. So I think that a lot of campus managers have a really hard time disciplining themselves because they're not used to ever working on something longer than 6 months to a year. Even if they've played a sport, like I played a sport my whole life, it was still, yeah, I was working hard year round, but my season was only 3 months long. It wasn't, a year. I'm looking a year down the road. I'm looking at, how am I going to perform in this spring softball season? And what do I need to do to get in there?
Yeah. I mean, it's still broken up into seasons, right? Just like a semester, like a school year is in semesters or quarters. And that is such a good theory, Tori. And I had never even thought about that. And I've been, working with campus managers for 4 years, and that does fit. I think what we see in these patterns of behavior, where like this long term mentality isn't really instilled yet in people in college. Right, you kind of work in stints and you accomplish something, and then you get to rest, and then you start all over, right? But you really cannot rest as a campus manager, right? Even in the summer, you have things going on. You have to reconnect with clients. You have to plan fall in advance, right? You can't really let, your guard down.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And it's hard. Like, it's still, even for me to this day, it's still something I struggle with, is seeing long term and building my markets and hiring good campus managers and building campus managers down the road. but it's something that we will all, as long as we're, again, disciplined, will get better at it over time. Just building a business does not happen overnight, and I think a lot of people expect it to, and it's really not as easy as it seems.
Love that. And as a BDM, Tori, just last question. And what are you looking forward to accomplishing in the next 2 years as a business development manager at Fresh Prince?
In the next 2 years, I am going to take Vero down and beat his sales record. Um,
Shout out to Wiro too, if you're listening out
Shout out
there. She's
Wiro.
coming for
Yeah,
you.
you know I'm coming for you. He's sweating already, don't worry. But yeah, I want to be able to confidently say that I have the highest performing team that Fresh Prince has ever seen of campus managers. And I do think it's very possible, but I do think it again is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But nothing easy is worth my time.
Nothing, major is ever easy to accomplish. And I really like your chances at taking down Vero, and I'll be rooting for you on the sidelines. Vero's a good friend, but I think somebody needs to dethrone him at some
Yeah,
point. Everything comes to an end.
yeah.
At some point.
I'll dethrone him. He knows it's coming.
And he'll gladly, he would love seeing that as well. With knowing Vero, he would be so proud of you. Well, Tori, lovely speaking to you. Thanks so much for making the time. And stories like yours are really what inspires us to come into work every day. It's been a remarkable journey for you, and I can't really wait to see what you have in store in the next 2 years. And yeah, thank you again for joining.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you very
Yeah,
soon.
thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.